father gave was, if you go to a community association with grandparents and seniors, you don't want to start your presentation off with a critique of neocolonialism. Even though neocolonialism may be the reason why services aren't being delivered, it's just not going to be a winning discussion around elevating their consciousness. By the same token, you may go to a college campus and you want to be able to use terminology that should challenge them and push them to understand like what's happening in the world, right? So you want to make sure that your audience understands. I think that's for us something that we continue to evaluate, because, for instance, our organization, we do 2 political educations a month. One, what you call our mass political education, which is available to anybody who can just sign up and walk in, right? And you don't know what that means. That's all kind of levels. And then we have what we call a cadre or organizers PE, which is designed to essentially challenge you, to ask you to commit to a book series. The mass PE is designed to be digestible in a 90-minute format. It uses videos, it uses audio, and it uses very short readings. You know, again, and the idea is hopefully somebody comes to that, they get a little bit of something, and maybe they either go out and do some more study, they might contact us, but you know, you want to continue to advance what they understand. So you have to understand your audience, right? Choosing content. I heard somebody say this today, and I said, darn, they stole my thing, but it's such a great, it doesn't go wrong. Emil Carcabral, what is a tremendous revolutionary. If you want to study how to get it done, these are the people who study. Always bear in mind that the people are not fighting for the ideas in anyone's head. They are fighting to win material benefits, to live better and in peace, and to see their lives go forward, to guarantee the future of their children. If that doesn't mean anything to you, you are in the wrong business, right? If what parents aren't dealing with every day to try to feed their children and get clothes on their back and get them to school safe, and you know what I'm saying? If you can't understand what it means to be an adult who never has enough money, right, to take care of your own health, let alone your children's health, or to have a safe living environment for your family, if that doesn't mean anything to you, you're in the wrong business, right? Because people are really concerned with these things, and they can't hear you over there growling bellies, talking about imperialism and capitalism. They can't understand you. You have to be able to make all this stuff very relatable and connected to their suffering, to this system. And you probably have to start from the suffering up to the system. You can't start from the system down, right? So I think that's important. So how do you choose your content, right? Some of that, and some of this was helpful in like understanding what is the importance versus what is the relevance versus what is the significance. And all that sounds like, but it's, you know, the truth is, the importance, sometimes we think everything is important, right? But if the education is based on a current event or something local, it might be very important, right? But it may not have anything to do with your platform. So how do you judge whether that's the right PE or not? Maybe something's on your platform, but people just like, right now I'm dealing with what's outside. Can you talk to that, right? The relevance, how does education impact the lives of people, of black workers and other working people? Does it help people to better organize and act in their response, right? So it's not just enough to give dry formula reading, like read this. The question should be, well, how does that apply to what we do next, right? As an individual, as a family, as a community, as a nation, what do we do next? And sometimes the truth is, you can't even implement the ideas quite yet because you don't have the capacity. Right. But people should start having ideas about what's needed, so when they hear bullshit, right, they know when they hear it. They know when an answer ain't an answer, and a conclusion ain't a conclusion, right? Right now, something very interesting is happening in Baltimore. I don't know if people have seen this. There's someone, and I wish I knew who it was, who started a propaganda work against the mayor and the city council president, who happen to be very brown black men, right? Very brown black men, who do nothing but what the real estate investors really want to be done in our city, right? So the propaganda piece is a poster that says missing, and lists all the things that they've been known to do in common places, but you can't find them right now. and it's being plastered all over the city, right? And of course, everybody, you can't put plastic signs on poles, right? Because it's against the law technically to post up. But of course, everybody can put a sign up that says, sell your house, cheap, come to get your hair braided. All that's okay. Nobody got to put phone numbers and everything on it. You can do that, but you can't put a political statement about your missing black neo-colonialist sellout mayor and city council president who don't do nothing for your community. You can't do that. But it's winning people in the community because people recognize all the pain and suffering, and you don't have no political leadership that's standing up for it. Right? People recognize that, and it's being successful. Like I said, I really wish it was us. I really do. I mean, it's a self-criticism that it wasn't us, but it's a great piece of work. Lastly, I want to talk about the delivery of one of the next to the last is that, listen, we know that political education comes in many ways. It can be study groups and sitting down to study, and that's appropriate sometimes. You have community, civic, mass education. Literally before the pandemic, we had developed a civics class that we were trying to take to community associations and say, hey, can we come to your neighborhood and just teach basic civics? I mean, I'm talking about real basic civics. Like the city government is different from the county government, from the state government. These are the elected officials. But of course, we was going to put a black working class spin and all that information, but people couldn't say that we weren't going to give them a real civics class. And this was their entry point to be able to meet us and for us to have a real good reason to not be stopped when we're in people's communities just doing what we do. You know what I'm saying? So you also have videos today. We live in an era now where you clearly, COVID showed us that we don't have to stop organizing. It ain't the best way, but it is a way in which, especially when you're talking about national and regional organizations, we can now from our own homes be able to have education that's provided through videos and chats and discussions, right? Online use of this. It's a way of delivering political education, right? The other thing that we do online, we do short videos where we actually, chop it up and package the ballots or the bullets, right? Yeah. We talk about what's happening locally, what's happening nationally, internationally, so that people who see it can get a summation. And each of these all have their different audiences too, right? Most older folks are not going to be looking around for some, video on Facebook or Twitter or whatever you do, right? But there are people who love those mediums who love to digest it that way, right? What about flyers and newsletters? So they've always been effective ways of being able to organize people as well, and I think we shouldn't go away from them. Yeah, I know that print. Is somebody on?
Somebody on the phone?
No.
Okay, I guess it's okay. It may have been just moving the camera. Does it have a sound system attached to it in any way?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what it is. All right.
So newsletters, flyers are always useful ways. They're cheap, especially when you're talking about flyers. You can do a single-sided, a double-sided, agitational flyers, informational flyers. They're all these are all forms of political education, right? Especially if you're consistent with it, because you can move a campaign forward by giving updates and summations, things that people didn't know, right? You did your research, you might just be releasing all this stuff over a series of flyers that you put out, right? It may be based upon your platform, so that people get, because a platform is great when you look at it online, but a flyer lets you dig into, like, this is what it looks like when it happened to somebody's child, or just last week this happened, and this is why our platform is relevant. You know what I'm saying? So you want to be able to do that. And I think the other thing that we can't take for granted is you have to have practical engagement, right? Sometimes, the truth is, most times you don't really know what you know until you put it into action, right? So we've done some studies around how to do community gardening, right? And so we launched a small pilot program last year to help people start a garden in each of their own yards, right? And growing, listen, I got my garden that I already started again. I'm scared to be away 2 days because it needs to have water. But if you don't practice those kind of things, you don't know that you can't leave things for 2 or 3 days. You think 2 days, it'll be okay. Maybe it's not. You might lose a whole crop if you don't water it properly, right? That's practical engagement. How do you talk to people when you're passing out flyers? You can't just, jump in front of people. How many times have you seen it? Somebody don't want your flyer. That's why you're a slave anyway. Right.
That ain't
gonna happen. You ain't gonna win nobody off of that little comment, right? You gotta find another way to be able to say, well, thank you, maybe next time. You know what I mean? It's all a process. This is not, if it was easy, more people would be doing it.
Yes.
Right? So this is all a part of what we call how you deliver that political education. Lastly, I think these indicators, how do you know it's working? Right? And if you don't know if it's working, then you should stop yourself, save some of your resources and ask the question, wait a minute, is this working? Right? Because I was taught you might put out 500 leaflets and maybe only get 10%, 1% return. Well, if you're not even getting that, then you got to ask yourself, maybe we need to tweak it a little bit. Maybe it's the wrong area. Maybe it's the wrong group, wrong time of the day. There's a lot of reasons why it ain't working, but if you're not summing it up, you're just going to waste your resources, whether it's human or material or monetary, putting out bad political education, right? So ensure people understand the material, right? Even when you do your PE, you can have questions and answering. You can have questions and questionnaires at the end of the PE, so people can give you feedback. You know what I mean? Literally, did I understand it? Because you can, if you got a lot of people hemming and hawing, you might need to go back on the material. That doesn't mean the material was bad, but maybe it was delivered, wasn't delivered well. You got to go back. Ensure the length of the time is right. Not only does that mean the study PE, what you do, right? But sometimes you produce a flyer that's just, you ever see a flyer that's all words and not one single picture?
Right.
I mean, sometimes you need to put a heavy one out there. I ain't gonna lie to you. But sometimes a good picture will draw people's eye. Matter of fact, a picture sometimes will say everything the flyer ain't saying, right? Yeah. People like, I'm with this. You like, oh, okay, did you read the bottom? No. You know what I'm saying? So that means that you need to know is the political education of the right length, right? What we discovered doing the internet stuff is with the videos, 10, maybe 15, anything over 15 minutes, nobody ain't watching the rest of that, even if they want to. If you can do it in 5 minutes, which is a challenge, almost anybody got 5 minutes, right? You got lunchtime, you got something. People can do 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but you got to recognize that every form of presentation of the PE has to be of the right length, or you're going to lose people. And there's a point where you start to see people fade off, even in political education sessions, right? I don't know about you, but no 3-hour session works well. Even these are challenging. That's why you change the speakers, right? Because people need a new voice. They need to hear a new subject because it's hard to stay engaged that long. Make your education a regular process. You cannot expect any results if you only do one PE a year. If you put one flyer out a year, one video out, I don't care how catchy it is, it's not, you cannot measure its success if you're not consistent with it. Because every time somebody sees it, you even help them deepen what they just saw the last time. You help yourself deepen, because you help, if you can't explain the idea, you probably don't understand it well enough yourself, right? So these are all these things. You got to be able to have a regular process so that political education can be successful. And lastly, you got to measure the results of your process itself. You might have a PE, you might be putting out political education because you want to do a garden, right? And you're telling people, this is the day, this is where we can meet. Maybe 20 people show up, maybe 2 people show up. That helps you, well, maybe we should tweak it next time, right? We're going to do a demonstration, we're going to do a march. We need to be able to raise resources. You need to make sure that your political education is tied to how do we know this is successful? How do we look at the results? And sometimes it's just hard. I mean, just sometimes the right PE, the right audience, but other social and subjective material reasons might impact it, but you have to understand at least what those things are, right? Maybe you picked it at the wrong time of the year. You ain't gonna get nobody to come to too many political meetings on Super Bowl day. You know what I'm saying? NFL football at 4 o'clock. You can run all the meetings you want. Your turnout's gonna be low. I'm not saying it's gonna be empty. It's going to be low. And so you got to recognize that some of these things are impacting, and you got to make decisions because, again, it's about your resources, it's about your human and material resources, and whether or not people are growing, right? So I just wanted to put that out. I think it's important because when you do your election campaign, it's even more important. Because, again, our position is that, especially as an organization, campaigns should not just be about winning elections. It should be about winning power. If your goal in the election is to let people know we're going to build a child care program, and that's what you put out in all your flyers, all the people signing people up, after the election, whether you win or lose, you should have a number of people who are committed to building an institution.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the power. That's what you came for.
Right.
But if you want to win an election and you do all that other stuff and you lose, then how do you measure your success? Well, better luck next time. We don't have those kind of resources that we can just play that game. And I don't think we can allow the bourgeoisie to define for us what the result of success or failure is in the electoral arena. We should be consistently do that, because the truth is, you run enough campaigns and you win enough of those kind of things, you'll turn around and have a base of food co-ops, child care, stopping police brutality. You'll have all these institutions that clearly are tied to your political party and the work that you're doing, so the candidate that you run next has all this support. All this support because we've been building power in our community and not vesting in winning the elections, right? So that's what we think the political education process is really important. A part of our own strategy, right, of not just what we do during elections, but what we do every day, right, until election day comes.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over now to Brother Zaki.
Well done.
Well, thank you, brother. Well done. And you know what?